Good evening, Dhamma friends. We are going to begin this evening Sutta Study class. It is August 20th, and it is a wonderful evening for us to discuss the Dhamma based on discourses, especially based on particular Sutta that explore the Dhamma into highest extent. So would like to welcome everyone who participate in Zoom and also Facebook and live stream. May these friends who join with us be well, happy and peaceful by the power of Dhamma. And this is of course a collective effort to cultivate Kusala, being able to understand the Dhamma and making progress on it is a skillful deed. So that I wish everybody get into some Dhamma elements in mind and accelerate the practice with theory and also practice. Let me begin the Sutta study class by paying homage to the Supreme Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa in Pali and also in English. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I want to welcome those friends who joined from Sri Lanka, and some friends who called me said that they of course watched the live YouTube video from Europe. So anyway, all of you are cordially and with wholesome thought welcome to this Sutta studies. Our try is to take different discourses that explain the Buddha's teaching in length and discuss them for the benefit of all of us, especially to develop our meditation, develop our search on the Dhamma, so that we believe the Sila, Samadhi and Panya would be developed in us, accomplishing us in the noble training and also Vinaya. The sutta we selected for today is Upanisa Sutta in Pali, and it could be translated as proximate cause or immediate cause, something like that. This is according to Bhikkhu Bodhi, who wrote a very nice article, like book article, said that this discourse is forgotten by the commentators because it is relatively short and it is in Samyutta Nikaya in terms of explaining the Paticca Samuppada. This is one of the greatest discourses in entire Tripitaka, but it was forgotten by commentators for some reasons. So let me tell you where this discourse is. It is in Samyutta Nikaya, as I said. There is the section called Nidana Vagga, Pali. The very word Nidana is used to explain the Paticca Samuppada. If you look at the Four Noble Truths or the Saddhamma section called 37 Factors of Enlightenment, you see Paticca Samuppada or the dependent co-origination has been the underlying tendency of each teaching. And as soon as the Buddha attained to enlightenment, he was telling something about his search, and there he of course mean Paticcasamuppada too. And when he was thinking whether this teaching is discernible by humans, there also he thought that this Paticcasamuppada is really deep, and people, living beings who have sensual pleasures could not be able to understand this deep teaching, which based on Paticamuppada. And in other places, Buddha has admired in many ways that if one understands Paticamuppada, he or she has understood everything. Yeah, in the first discourse, you find Yang Kinchi Samudaya Dhammang, Sabbanta Nirodha Dhammang, when he talks about the very mind of Venerable Kondanya, he talks about he sees the Dhamma, and that is also about Paticamuppada. So Paticamuppada is therefore the widespread entire teaching of the Buddha's teaching, so that this section name as Nidana. Nidana in Pali or in Sinhala terms, something hidden, something not clear as it is, but with wise attention and exploration, you can find it. So Paticamuppada, therefore, is not simply understood by many people as it should be, but it is the very thing we need to understand in each action, so that we can see the impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self, and of course, breaking through self-delusion is also happened when one understands Paticamuppada. So this section is called Nidana Vagga Pali, and in that Nidana Vagga Pali, we have Nidana Sangyukta, where especially talk about Paticamuppada in discourses, and in that section we have the subcategory called Dasa Balavagga. In that Vagga, this is the third discourse, proximate cause. I follow Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation of Samyutta Nikaya, and you can find the translation of Bhikkhu Tanisaro and some other monks too. This discourse is delivered by the Buddha when he was at Savatthi at the Jetvanarama. So he thought himself to explain this discourse, which explain the Paticamuppada, because I say that the destruction of the pains is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see. You see that this statement, Janato aham bhikkhave passato asavanam kayang vadami no ajanato no apassato in Pali, in some discourses, and those discourses which has this statement is really significant. This statement is included in at the introduction of the discourse. That is for some people who knows much. He doesn't say any Dhamma with this statement for some people who do not know much about Dhamma. In that case, the audience, particularly bhikkhus who are here, are very intelligent, wise. Maybe they are able to understand the Dhamma Buddha is going to speak. And the content of the discourse would be very high, very profound too, with this statement. So because he says, I do not tell the deep Dhamma for those people who do not know and do not see. See, this Janato and Passato, these two words in Pali emphasize the level of theoretical knowledge we have, as well as the level of experience we have in that. So Janato means you are knowing about what exactly Buddha said about this and that, and there is no confusion about it, about them. And Passato means based on what you know, you have experienced the Dhamma, you have tasted the Dhamma very much, so that people who have already known the elements of Dhamma and also practice Dhamma can understand this kind of teaching according to simple interpretation of this statement. So that is what we have at the very beginning, and you see this statement in other discourses where the Buddha talks about Asava, where the Buddha talks about the Four Noble Truths, and so on. So that is what we found at the very beginning of the discourse. So then he said, for one who knows what, for one who sees what, does the destruction of, does the destruction of ten comes about. So if one knows what, and one knows, one sees what, how this destruction of taints also happen. So it is very direct and very clear. If we know what Rupa is and how Rupa originates, or how Rupa passes away, and also feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. If we know the arising of five aggregates, and of course the five aggregates themselves, and they are passing, these people I target in explaining the deep teaching. The Buddha said in simple terms, if we read the discourse, such is form, such its origin, such its passing away, such is feeling, such is perception, such a volitional formation, such is consciousness, such its origin, such its passing away. It is for one who knows thus, the one who knows about the five aggregates and their origination and their passing away, I am going to tell them this kind of deep teaching, the Buddha said. So that the emphasis the Buddha has given to this discourse is very high. And I think this is one of the discourses I like very much, because the way the Buddha explained the Paticca Samuppada is really significant. We usually see that many discourses explain Avijja, then Sankhara, Vijnana, and that 12-link formula with the foundation of Paticca must mean Satidang Hoti. And then when we come to reverse order, we see the absence of ignorance make the absence of mental formation, and that's how it goes. But here, the way the Buddha tell about the destruction of craving based on seeing Paticca is quite different. So that I think we have to remember this discourse. So in other words, this shows us a path to see the Paticca in our wholesome side. In Bhikkhu Bodhi's a big book which talks about the Upanisa Sutta, he says that there are two orders of Paticca. Here, one order is mundane order, the just order about how the Shraddha develops, and then Piti Pamujja, two factors rise accordingly, then how one leads to Sukha and Samadhi, then how one based on Samadhi develops Yatabhuta Jnana Darsana and so forth, and then it ends with Vijja Vimutti and Nirvana. And to come to that level, you have the other order as well. So it is really significant. Two orders are clearly shown in the discourse, so that you should remember this discourse. I encourage you to read the Bhikkhu Bodhi's 68 pages commentary to this Upanisa Sutta. And as I remember, I think Bhikkhu Nyanamoli also wrote something about it. And there are other discussions too about this discourse. So if you have time, go to read them and listen to them, so that the knowledge you could gather would be very high. Because this Sutta study class is sometime go to understand the discourses, and most of the things could be done by the participants in as homework, so that you have a lot to do. and I try my best to introduce discourses and explain the surface level of the Dhamma in the discourses, and sometimes go into deeper aspect. So let's go into the discussion. So this sutta, right after that, Buddha said, so basically understanding 5 aggregates with their nature is the core for breaking the wholesome chain. Seeing the 5 aggregates with their origin and also passing away is not that easy, because to do that you should have mindfulness, you should have wisdom, you should have concentration particularly, and also virya. We have to have these cardinal qualities in us in order to see the 5 aggregates and their origin and passing away clearly, so that you see yourself and everybody else and everything around us, everything in this world are conditioned phenomena, so that you are going to break the attachment to 5 aggregates. So let's go into the exact words the Buddha uttered here. I say because that the knowledge of destruction in regard to destruction has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for the knowledge of destruction? It should be said liberation. So the destruction, the knowledge of the destruction of craving means the attainment to arahantship, and knowing it is not without causes and conditions. Nirvana, as you say in English, enlightenment, is asankata. I mean, it is now beyond causes and conditions. To reach to that level, one has to strive on with different mental and physical conditions. But once you reach there, it is not related to anything. It is not now based on anything. It doesn't say anything like related to this and those, because you are totally free and you have that knowledge. However, to reach to it, one has gathered reasons for it. So the Buddha clearly said here that proximate cause for nirvana is liberation, vimukti. So first, you have to release yourself from taints, asava, and then you know that I release myself from this. The word used for it, I, otherwise there is no way for us to say. Look at the Buddha. He attained to first knowledge, second knowledge in the first part of the night, second part of the night, and he did destruction of asava in the last watch of the night. And once he did that, he clearly knows that I did it. So when one destroys the taints, asava, there you have the knowledge of the destruction of asava. So that liberation is taking place stages by stages well before that, and the liberation is completed, and you know it's 2 things. I think you understand this progressive step of liberation as one thing, and once you liberate it, so that is another thing. So arahat, being an arahant, and of course is happening, and once you did that, you have to know that you are an arahant. Vimutti jnana dassana is one thing, and knowing about vimutti jnana dassana is another. So here the knowledge of the destruction of taint has the proximate cause, that is liberation, vimutti. And then Buddha continues, I say because that the liberations too has a proximate cause, it does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate cause for liberation? It should be said as dispassion. What do you mean by dispassion? Nibbida, the very Pali word, I take some time to explain this word because it is really important. Nibbida means being unable to enjoy the pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling as they are. So you are not enjoying any type of feeling just like average person, because you don't see that pleasantness, unpleasantness, and neutral feeling as valuable as it was. So that you are going to release yourself from those kinds of feeling. Why do I explain this with the feeling? Because uh, there is a single word, nirvindane. Once you have that nirvindane, you don't feel it. So when you attain this particular mental state, nibbida, you are not going to enjoy anything and everything as it should be by, like mundane people. So nibbida, when you do not see any value of any type of pleasantness, unpleasantness, or and so on, you are going to release yourself from those things, so that dispassion is there, right? So dispassion. So dispassion is viraga. Sorry, the proximate cause for viraga is nibbida. So right after this, we have it. So revulsion and nibbida are going together. So the discourse says the knowledge of the destruction of craving is vimukti, and vimukti is also happening with virag, and virag is happening because of nibbida. So these two things happen together. But if you look at the training, whether you take any meditation subject, there is no time gap between these, but we can see nibbida and viraga for some time because you have been practicing it for long. So viraga, I just want to explain this term too. Raga is a kind of lightness and delightness for sensual pleasures, in a simple term. And now when we add "we" at the beginning of the word, it's called viraga. So now you are not now you are not delighted to any sensory experiences, because you have seen the unimportance of pleasantness, unpleasantness, and neutral nature of feeling. So I just want to make these two because they are very deep. However, when you practice 7 factors of enlightenment, we find these two terms, nibbida, viraga, and of course vimukti there. So once you complete the factors of enlightenment, you are slowly embracing these two terms. So proximate cause for viraga is revulsion. Nibbida, now Buddha said there is a proximate cause for revulsion or nibbida also. That is, according to the discourse, the knowledge and vision of things as they are, yata bhuta jnana. So yata bhuta jnana is a clear spot of our training, clear place of our training, clear indication of our training where we go now. Yata bhuta means seeing things as they are. You are not seeing something else. You are not deluded by anything, but you see clearly what exactly your mind speak about on the truth, about the truth. So the proximate cause for revulsion is yata bhuta jnana. This could happen in different ways. I would say sometimes we feel that we don't need to enjoy sensual pleasures anymore because we understand that the sensual pleasures are dangerous in many ways. They are inviting all kinds of unwholesomeness, so that you can control your senses, particularly your mind, through so that you don't enjoy your senses. That is a type of revulsion or nibbida, because you have seen the truth. You have seen the unimportance of enjoyment entertainment your senses through all these seeing, hearing, tasting, and so forth. So type of Yatabhuta Jnana might be taking place always for some people because they are open to the Dhamma and Vinaya. They have been practicing mindfulness training always, so that the level of Yatabhuta also is being developed accordingly. So then the approximate cause for the knowledge and vision of things as they really are is concentration. In Samyutta Nikaya, where the Buddha talks about samadhi, one statement we find is samahitang chittang yatabhutang pajanati. When concentrated, you see things as they are. With pure mind, with calm mind, you can see the truth of your mind and body exactly, and nam rupa. So concentration, samadhi, is the key thing or the proximate cause for yatabhuta. Then what is the proximate cause for samadhi or concentration? Sukha. Sukha is not the happiness we generally talk about. This sukha is very high, and in that you have kind of very relaxed, very peaceful physical body and mind. Both body and mind have been responding very well, and they are very supportive for mental cultivation. I think we have to achieve this level of dharma in order to understand what exactly they are. There are many examples, analogies, similes are given in the text for us to understand what kind of pleasure we can get out of these practices. So sukha is a mental state where you see both body and mind equally calm down and relaxed, and those are the words we can say for the moment. So happiness or sukha is the proximate cause for samadhi. And how does happiness come? How does sukha come into existence in us? There is a cause for that as well. That is called tranquility, passaddhi. You see this word many times in our meditation. Of course, it is a factor of enlightenment too, and it is being talked when we talk about samadhi. In the gradual training for samadhi, we have passaddhi. It's a kind of tranquilizing or harmonizing our mind towards the meditation subject. For example, we take the breathing for our focus, so that at some point you are in a position to say the breath and every other aspect attached to the breath clearly, and now you feel a type of a very relaxed mode. You see the physical body is responding for what you need, and also the mind, and you are in full control of your meditation subject, and particularly the mind with it. So tranquility is the proximate cause for sukha. You are tranquilizing your mind. Passaddha kayo sukhang vedete in Upanisa Sutta and elsewhere, where the Buddha talks about the gradual progress of samadhi. Passaddha kaya sukhang vedete. When you tranquilize your mind, there you see the bodily tranquility and mental tranquility. Kaya passaddhi and chitta passaddhi. So the tranquility is not coming alone. It is not without causes and condition. It is also having some causes and condition, and it is said rapture, piti, a total mental calmness. You are happy, you are elated, and you have that particular interest, taste on what you are doing, and so that tranquility is the immediate results of rapture. Rapture, piti, is an internal peace with meditation, with knowing what you do, if we talk about the breathing meditation, rapture is there, that when rapture is coming, there is no hindrances. So you have been, experiencing that hindrances have gone well before this. Before rapture, we have actually Pamojja, and with Pamojja and Piti, we see that the hindrances are dying, hindrances are gone, so that we want to understand that rapture is something we look for. Piti. Piti Bojjanga is something we need to develop always with anything we do in the Dhamma, just to get closer to Nirvana. And suppose Piti is a temporary suppression of dukkha and also other related factors for dukkha. So piti, rapture, is the proximate cause for tranquility. And as I said, rapture also is coming depending on something, and that is gladness. You are gladdening your mind when you do something great. Not necessarily the meditation with the focus, but you can find pamojja or gladness with something you do in day-to-day life. When you do puja, you can find rapture. When you do a kind of generous activity, you can keep your mind into that level if you are really focusing on what you do. Because and then when you have yoniso manasikara about your body and yourself, can this particular experience in effect in us. So pamujja is something we always would like to get, because it is in it is in first couple of phases of our practice. Then pamujja is also having a proximate cause. According to the discourse, it is faith, shraddha. So shraddha is giving birth to pamujja. Shraddha here, if you look at the order of Paticcasamuppada here, starting from the knowledge of the destruction in regard to craving, this shraddha is nothing but confidence on the Buddha and his teaching and the respective disciples of the Buddha. So when you believe on your dharma here and keep your confidence on the Buddha's advice and Buddha himself, you have that internal joy, piti. So that's why we actually do this chanting, paying homage to the Buddha at the very beginning of any program, because when we put faith on the Buddha, whether he lives or not, we are safe and we are satisfied with that. So that we begin with type of piti, the meditation or the program we do, so that it is easier for us to reach to other level of experience. So Shraddha, Saddupanisa pamujja, pamujupanisa piti, pitupanisa passaddi, passaddupanisa samadhi. That is how the Pali terms goes on explaining each factors with conditional nature. So Shraddha is the key for bringing the other stages of enlightenment. So now you see, Paticcasamuppada is not only talking about suffering, it is talking about the way out of suffering as well. It talks about how stages of enlightenment are being developed in our mind, and that is the basis of Paticcasamuppada also. So that many people understand how Paticcasamuppada is explained with regard to suffering and its arising, but many people do not know how to explain, how to understand how suffering is overcome based on Paticcasamuppada. So because avidya yatveva asesa viraga nirodho sankara nirodha viññāna, that is how usually people understand the cessation of suffering based on in Paticcasamuppada. It is not where it is okay for some people who understand the Dhamma, but this way is much clear. Avijjayatveva asesa viraga nirodho sankara nirodha is explained in other way around in this discourse. Based on Shraddha, you have Pamujja. So that now we want to be faithful. If I use the very simple word for Shraddha in Pali, the faith doesn't mean what Shraddha is, but anyway, we use it for the sake of understanding. So develop faith on the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha and the karma and the training principle, so that you have internal peace. So now you understand how this happiness, initial happiness, is because of my Shraddha on the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and I practice Sila. So you strengthen your practice on Sila. You strengthen your Shraddha because of that taste of Pamujja. So that then time to time you experience Piti also. It's a very advanced level of internal happiness. So you are getting it. Now you see the absence of hindrances. Kamachanda, Vyapada, Tinamid, Uddacha, Kukucha, Vijagicha is gone when you come to level of Piti. So attaining to jhana is taking place with this practice. So now you are not going backward, because when one's experience jhana, that is wonderful, that is marvelous. So you haven't tasted such happiness before. So that passaddhi and sukha also, samadhi is also there immediately after experiencing this piti. It's not that difficult for you to go to completion of passaddhi and sukha and samadhi. So you're not going backward. I don't say that they are permanent state, but relatively 98 people who experience these piti, passaddhi, sukha, samadhi are going forward, in my understanding. You should have very strong, asatpurisa sevana, and like Devadatta and Ajasatta and Kokalika and Kinchimanaka. So if you have such powerful unwholesome friendship, your samadhi level would be going away from you. Otherwise, you are of course knowing who the Buddha is and who are the noble Sangha is, so that your association is very high with regard to people, and also the Dhamma you practice is very good, so that there is no going backward for you, in my understanding. So right now you see Patisampada, imasming sati idang hoti. When Shraddha is there, Piti is arising as a result of Shraddha. Imasming sati idang hoti. Imas upada idang upajjati. When Shraddha rises, imasming imas upada idang upajjati, Piti upajjati. When Shraddha upajjati, when Shraddha rises, this piti also arises accordingly. So you see the doctrine of paticca samuppada imasming sati idang hoti is really applied here. But how Shraddha comes, and what made you to be Shraddha, what made you to be faithful about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha? Why? There is a reason. Let's discuss the sutta, and later on we can evaluate the implication of this. Shraddha is because of suffering here. This is what the Buddha said. I say because that faith too has a proximate cause. It does not lack a proximate cause. And what is the proximate or immediate cause for Shraddha? It should be said suffering. To me, this is very clear. When people are not having any problem like sicknesses or any mental problem, any social problem, any political, national, global problems, when everything is okay, people do not feel following spirituality because everything is okay. especially young people when they are staying in prime age, they don't have any physical problem, so that the value of practicing a moral principles, maybe path of spirituality, may not be given high regards, because they are enjoying their good health and a strong body, and so many things. But when they experience the change of health and losing of properties and loved ones, when they get into some unpleasurable experiences, there they have that breakdown of their trust on youth, possibilities of in young age, and also various other things. So that feeling made them to find solace from either by listening to Dhamma, listening to chanting, looking for meditation. So it could happen any person. Some people who have done much on that spiritual training could get this point despite their age, but many people seems forgotten about the reality of life. But however, when they manifest aging and jara, vyadi, and of course losing loved ones, that is the moment for them to turn into Shraddha. So they are going to accept the fact that there is a dharma, there is eternal truth in this life, and it is uttered by the Buddha. First, you got into the right facts of your life. And who said these right facts? It is the Buddha. It is so and so, so that you are going to believe on what they say, not only with regard to what we experience, and even other things. So that's how many people come to the order as monks and nuns, because they believed they experienced the utter suffering, and then they faced they put their faith on the Buddha and listen to more and more, and they sustain on the Dhamma and Vinaya, and that's how they got into. So dukkha Upanisa Sutta is applicable and easily understood, right? Unless there is suffering in this life, such as aging, then decay, illnesses, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and so on, there won't be any person at any spiritual center. In suttas where the Buddha talks about niyama dharma, he said that if not fundamental dukkha exists in living beings, there won't be Buddhas, there won't be Arahants in this world. They never appear, because there is no necessity. The necessity of the Buddha, necessity of such Dhamma is because of manifestation of suffering. So suffering, unsatisfactoriness, lead us to explore the teachings, explore the truth. Look at Prince Siddhartha. He had everything in his life. In couple of days, he was destined to be the monarch of the Sakyan, and later on he would be he could be considered the universal monarch. But before that, he saw the irreversible suffering of this life. Dukkha is there. If I die like other people, if I experience aging, sicknesses before death like other people, what is the use of enjoying these sensual pleasures anymore? So then he put his faith on the Shramana tradition at the time, and he went to teachers, from teachers to teachers, and he practiced self-mortification. If he had not faith on self-mortification, Attiklamatan Yoga, actually he doesn't do it. So he saw the dukkha viparinama dukkha into a certain extent, sankara dukkha. That's why he left he let go of that princely life. So dukkha upanisa shraddha, dukkha is the proximate cause for shraddha. Sometimes people do not believe this because dukkha here, if we go into details, is sankara dukkha. When you understand that everything is made up of four elements or six elements or whatever elements, then they are constantly changing, and changing phenomena brings nothing but dukkha. This dukkha is not dukkha that we shed tears and so forth. This dukkha is sankara dukkha. Sabbe sankara dukkhati. All conditioned things provide not happiness, not that type of initial dukkha, but they are changing. Because of that, there is dukkha. This dukkha should be understood as sankara dukkha. So when you see that everything changed, everything subject to suffering fundamentally, and there is no permanent entity called I, me, and myself, so that you incline into the Buddha, you incline into the Dharma and Vinaya. That is what we talk about here. Immediately with this training, look at Rattapala. He listened to one Dhamma discourse, which included, I guess, a very deep, very profound teaching. Immediately after the first discourse he ever listened to, he thought that this life is not is unimportant with sensual pleasures, so that I should go homelessness too. I should practice this Dhamma entirely by being a bhikkhu. So how could he let go of all belongings, including his wives, just by listening to one discourse? Because he got this understanding about dukkha. He understood sankara, or everything is sankara, and they are inclined to dukkha. So that he put unwavering confidence on the Buddha and his teaching. And he thought that being a monk, being a bhikkhu, is the ultimate solution in seeking the emancipation. So dukkha is suffering here is unsatisfactoriness on what we see, what we experience, what we have. So dukkha, bhikkhus, also has a proximate cause, that is birth. Now I think you know the formula clearly. If you look at the eva metassa kevalassa dukkha kandasa samudaya. Dukkha rises because of birth. Unless we are born to any particular life, there is no aging, there is no illnesses, there is no sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, no dukkha arising through attachment to five aggregates, no death at all. So birth into a state, either human or divine or Brahma or Deva or Asura or Apaya, that brings suffering. Now we see the formula that you know. The proximate cause for birth is existent bhava, and bhava is because of attachment, and then clinging, upadana, and upadana is because of that tanha, that delightness for sensual pleasures and so on. And tanha is because of vedana, and vedana is because of contact, and contact is manifesting because of the senses, ayatana, and senses come into existence because of namarupa, and namarupa is created into that state by vijnana, and vijnana has the proximate cause as sankara, and sankara is because of ignorance. So you know that formula. So having said these two formulas together, transcendental order of Paticampada as well as mundane order, Buddha emphasized them over and over for bhikkhus to remember. So I'm not going to do that because it's taking time. So now you see bhikkhus with ignorance, you have volitional formation. With volitional formation, consciousness, that is the mundane order. And then when we go to supramundane order, you start it with Shraddha. With Shraddha, you have gladness. Pamojja, with Pamojja, you have Piti. Rapture, with rapture, you have Sukha. Tranquility, and with tranquility, Sukha. Then Samadhi, then Yatabhuta Jnana Dasana. With Yatabhuta Jnana Dasana, you go to other stages of Patisampada in this transcendental order. So, having said this, Buddha gave a simile. Let me read that so that we can have the discussion. Just as when rain pours down in thick droplets on a mountain top, the water flows down along the slope and fills the clefts, gullies, and creeks. These being fulfill up the pools. These being fulfill up the lakes. These being fulfill up the streams, rivers, and then a great ocean. So too with the ignorance as proximate code, volitional formation, and so on. And finally, arahantship, liberation, nibbana is taking place. So how clear this discourse is. Wonderful in my personal experience. Sometimes I think about these formulas in order for me to have Shraddha on the Buddha Dhamma and Sangha. And whatever we experience, they are all depending on something. That is the very message we can get. Whether you are in suffering, you can see your mind, how this suffering come into existence, and because of that reason, and how that reason is made because of the other reason. So on. You can look at all the causal, conditional nature of your mind for suffering as well as happiness. Whether it is mundane or supramundane, whether it is laukika or lokottara, you can analyze everything based on Paticcasamuppada. So friends, that is initial reading of the discourse. Now we can have a discussion on Upanisa Sutta in Samyutta Nikaya Nidana Samyutta. Yes, two people have raised their hand. I saw first Vimal Mahatmya from Sri Lanka, I guess. So can you unmute your mic and speak?
Bante, may I know the exact difference between Preeti and Pamojja? Because in the Sinhala translation, I see Pamojja as Durvala Preeti.
Yeah, we see lack of coherence on certain translation. Yeah, it's called initial, very basic happiness. For example, if you go to Ruangalisaya or Srima Bodhi and sit in a cool, weather there, that where you do not find any problem at all, and you see the pagoda or the Dagab, and you see the Bodhi tree, and your mind doesn't go anywhere except this particular moment, and you can remember the Buddha qualities. Now you have that gladness, Pamojja. You are inclined into spiritual happiness. It's a kind of walking through a very hot, very difficult road, and at the same time you see a very beautiful tree with shade, and you sit down and you drink some water. As soon as you start drinking water, you feel fresh. You feel with the shade of the tree, you don't have that burning things in your body, but sweating is happening always, but a kind of release from that hot weather. It could be likened to Pamojja. Pamojja is gladness. Gladness is not existing us for a long time. It's an initial quick joy in our mind. But when it comes to Piti, it is a sustained happiness, a kind of joy that exists for a certain period of time. As I said in the initial reading, with Pamojja, we still see kind of delightness with particularly hindrances. The shadows of hindrances might be still there with Pamojja. I'm not telling you the whole, hindrances are there in your mind with Pamojja, but the shadow of hindrances are there in mind. But when you come to Piti level, you see those hindrances are completely gone, because immediately after there is no gap between Passaddhi and also Sukha and Samadhi. They are living, they are rising together. It's very difficult for us to find gaps between those terms. So that is why I think that translation weak Durvala Piti is mentioned. So it's not that developed pleasure, it's a kind of starting of Piti. That's why we have that translation in Sinhala. That's my understanding about it.
In that sense, may I take the Pamojja as mundane happiness?
Of course, there are, for Arahants, for those people who have at least attained to Sotapanna, they are in the supramundane level. They don't find any problem in getting into Samadhi quicker than mundane people, mundane level. So that definitely they are mundane. They are mundane because for Arhants we don't see gladness and those things very often talk about, because they have crossed over that level. They have upekka. It's hard to see these things from Arhant. They of course attain to jhana. They attain to samapatti, absorption, quite often when they get time to do that. But these type of mental experiences are basically talk about in the at the beginning of the training in the spiritual practice, so that they are definitely mundane.
Thank you, Bhante.
You're
Chirvan
welcome.
Sarnai.
Yeah, wish you the same. Dr. Pia?
Bhante, that's one simple question is like you said, Saddha is as a important part of dukkha is important part of developing Saddha. Now, when you think of the divine planes, the dukkha is minimally felt because it's more sukha viharati kind of planes, right? Mostly. So I guess the idea of Buddha coming to the human world because the suffering is equally felt, like shorter lifespan and the suffering is but it's kind of hard for the devas in a way to develop saddha, unless obviously you are like a sotapanna or like some srimantra or like a deva, or then probably they have that. So that's one comment. But the other thing is priti, sukha, eka, these are all I think part of the jhana qualities you're explaining. Like say for example, if you talk about the 7 enlightenment factors, again we are talking about jhana qualities. So saddha, even virya, sati, samadhi, prajna, this is probably what's the expansion of this, with the saddha making the virya effort, sati and samadhi qualities, priti, sukha, and eventually prajna, rising and passing away, the aggregates. So this is a I mean, you can fit this to any kind of formulas, but I guess this is but when you think of it, they all make sense in one setting. Like you can connect this in any way you like.
Yeah.
But it's just a sense is the same, as you say at the end, the taste of salt, right?
Yeah.
So it makes very much sense, although they are broken into pieces in different sutras. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, like oh, this is a different quality, oh no, this is different, but they are all the same qualities Buddha talk about in different sutras in different ways, but they all come together at the end, right, with practice. I guess. And because remember that the sutta talk about the jhana qualities, like a pond where there are the water, there's a quick acceleration of preeti, like the fountain bringing the cool water right into the center, and suddenly then sukha, like it's like the lotus floating around with the cool water, bathing all over the lotus, touching everywhere. So it's a kind of a beautiful metaphors Buddha talk about to explain this. Sometimes it's hard to kind of understand, but when you look at the metaphors or think of the metaphors, it's sometimes easier to grasp this.
Yeah, that's why the Buddha has given those similes in the discourses where the Buddha talks about samadhi. It's true. When you think about suffering in divine existence, we don't often talk about aging and sorrow, lamentation, because in human existence you have to work hard to find your food and clothes and medicine, and you easily see the breaking down of your health because of that, and you are exhausted always due to the fact that the limited resources. But in divine pleasure, we with information from divine world through the text, we don't see that divine beings are searching food like humans. They don't have any problem with cement and blocks and housing projects. They don't have because whatever they wish they have in their hands. So that and we don't see that divine bodies are like human bodies, and they are very light and they don't have any problem with cholesterol, diabetes, and they don't have disasters like earthquake, tsunami, and we haven't heard anything like that. So that the necessity of being faithful to somebody or something would not arise for them. However, there are wise divine beings who, of course, give ear to the Buddha or Arahants, well before even the Buddha's dispensation. Did you see that Kumarakassapa was encouraged by Brahma, and that Brahma was a friend of Kumarakassapa during the time of Buddha Vipassi. So there were some Brahmas who were, got into the Dhamma well before this Buddha. So that we come to know that there are some divine beings who have faith on the Buddha, faith on the reality of life, in particularly Dhamma. But I agree with you that divine existence would not be the perfect life for you to see the suffering as it is in life, like in human existence. In a short period of time, you can see the aging and change of human body and losing loved ones. And of course, with regard to what I said about divine existence, they don't have vipayogo dukkho, sampayogo dukkho, and so forth. But in yampicha nalabati tampi dukkha, they are very much in our life. Even if you have multi-million-dollar properties, you are worrying about protecting them. Sometimes you are not getting what you want, even with all kinds of things, right? So that the human existence is the given opportunity for us to understand the noble truth as they are. So the question is here, it's not a silly question, it's a very important question. Are Deva bodies made up of the elements? Of course, yes. Brahma, Deva, human, animals, and hell beings, they are all, their bodies are made up of elements. Actually, the elements are not this Patavi. When we use the word Patavi, it's not talking about the this particular earth we stand on. It talk about the solidity. It talk about the nature of Patavi, not the Patavi itself. And then when we talk about Apo, we are not talking about the water. We are talking about the nature of water, cohesion. And when we talk about air, it's not about the wind we talk about. It's the why when we say wind, we should see the leaves are shaking and the clothes are going and light objects are floating in the sky, in the space. So wind is the way the Buddha say for us to understand the concept. But when we talk about the elements, Apo is Vayu is the nature of movement, the nature of kind of movements. And then Tejo is not the fire. Fire has the nature of Tejo, right? So in order for us to understand the elements with easy examples, Buddha talk about Patavi, then water, and then fire, and then wind. It's called wind property, right? It's called fire property. And something that translation provide us ample clear statement that the elements are elements, they are fundamental nature. So when we, with that understanding, look at the divine beings, they have radiant bodies. So they were Brahma, Asura, they came to the Buddha, and in one occasion in Digha Nikaya, the Buddha asked, Samyutta Nikaya, I can't remember exact place, the Buddha, they were to make his body somewhat solid, because the Deva stand and he is sinking down his body to the earth. Then the Buddha asked that they were to make that his body somewhat solid in order for that they were to stand on the ground. So their bodies are very light, but the nature of those bodies are Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, the Dhatu Sarupa, Dhatu Swabhava in Pali. So yes, what you said, Doctor, at last is also important. The one of the major links in this mundane and supramundane order is Shraddha and Dukkha. Yeah. So we believe on the Buddha. Why? Because he tells us that this life is under suffering. When we hear this for the first time, we were not believing. Because why? Because we are happy, we get what we want and so on. But slowly, gradually, we experience the changes of body, and we are crying for not getting what we want. Even the newborn child cry because he doesn't get milk at the first time he requests he wants the need, and the child is getting it by crying, and it's painful. So that each and every human and also other living beings experience the stages of suffering as explained in the first noble truth. Not these people are not going to understand birth is suffering at once, the 5 aggregates of clinging and bhava and so on, but they feel that the current conditions of the life is changing, so that they are worrying about. So that is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and yam pichang nalabhidampi dukkam piya vipayogo go dukkho sampayo. They are very manifested dukkha's, stages of dukkha, so that we are going to put our 100% trust on the Buddha to believe that we were before this life. We are in a cycle of birth and death, so that the suffering is the main reason for us to come into this cycle. And now you are going to understand avijja, why we come to experience suffering right now and even before this life, because of ignorance, because of craving, because of that asava, or the continuous flow of unwholesomeness in mind, so that you trust on the Buddha's teaching and the Buddha himself, and now you are following principles. Why we actually here with Shraddha, it is implied here, with Shraddha we try to practice Sila. We try to practice other important moral principles to bring our mind into Pamojja and Piti. Unless we practice Sila, unless we practice other meritorious deed, supportive conditions, we are not in positions to experience Piti, Pamojja, Piti, and Sukha and Passaddhi and Samadhi. So in Dhammapada, in Jata Sutta also, Buddha talks about Sile patittaya naro sapanyo chittang panyancha bhavyang atapi nipako bhikkhu, and so on. So the one who practice Sila, of course, make the ground for him to experience Samadhi, and with Samadhi completion, with Samadhi you are completing your wisdom or Panya level as well. So with Shraddha, we have to practice the Sila. And at the same time, simultaneously, you have faith on meditation, you have faith on the Noble Eightfold Path. Putting yourself into the framework of middle path is the key thing for you to gain Piti and Pamojja Piti, and then Passaddhi Sukha and so forth. So we have to take those important teachings and apply it over here. That is, without foundation, no Shraddha is being developed. And if you look at other teachings where the Buddha talks about the importance of wisdom for Shraddha Indriya, Shraddha Indriya is not developed as it is without the application of wisdom there. So that depending on wisdom, depending on right reflection, we have Shraddha. Rattapala put his faith unwaveringly, unchangeable way, because he understood that this life is utterly, ignorant, and the Buddha, he put faith on the Buddha, so that he practiced all his principles right after, because of that Shraddha. So that is that type of Shraddha on the Buddha and Dhamma was developed in him because he had right wisdom there. Samma Ditti arose in him in an enormous way. That's why he was able to let go of that wealth and family life and so forth. Look at Sariputta at the Giragga Samajja, the concert they participated in top of a mountain is called Giragga Samajja. They had that experience before. They were in those kind of night club and also parties, but they didn't have that experience. Suddenly they came to a strong understanding that this life is miserable with this kind of thing. They are nothing but ignorance. So we have to go right now to find the truth. So with wisdom, Shraddha is developed. Not knowing the Buddha, who the Buddha is, what Dhamma he is practiced, they had that sansari experience to let go of everything based on Shraddha as well as right wisdom. So we have to grab those important teachings here in order to see the importance of the link between Dukkha and Shraddha. Unless you see the whole nature of life, you are not going to develop the Shraddha entirely. So that Shraddha, sorry.
No, the Saddha, you're talking about Saddha, like, I mean, even if you take about the Sotapatta Anga, the Saddha is the first three are the Saddha, Buddha
Yeah.
and Dhamma and Sangha, and comes the Sila, right? So there
Yeah.
is a connection, or the four requisites for a person to stream entry, Anga, are these three Saddha, Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and the Sila, Aryakanta Sila. So I think it makes so much sense, the initial part, both Saddha and Sila kind of goes together as a first part of the enlightenment, like a stream enterer. Does it make
Very true.
yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, if I talk about the meditation a little bit, it makes sense also. So sometimes we get into meditation not because we understand the full scope of meditation, but because many people admire meditation. So it could be okay because you are still an aliens to meditation. But when you come to meditation and you get the point, you stick your attention to the meditation subject. Now it's your mind doesn't go anywhere but the meditation subject. Now type of confidence is building in you that you can do this, that this is so gorgeous. And so it's working, when you have that shraddha on meditation, that it is the path for peace and happiness right now. So you are going to believe on the Buddha, you are going to trust on the Dharma, so you need more. And I can show you Phamojja and Piti also there in meditation. When now you have Phamojja there, because your mind doesn't go anywhere, stick to breathing if the meditation subject is breathing. And now you feel that you don't feel that pain in your legs, and no disturbances at all in your mind, so you are relaxed. And so Shraddha kind of the definition for Shraddha is confident on the meditation is being built now. And then internal initial joy is there. Now slowly but surely you are going to stay there longer, experiencing rapture and piti, passad. These there, as you said, samadhi qualities are arising in you, completing samadhi. So we can see these qualities gradually developing in us if we put the right thing in our mind, if we have right reflection in our mind in meditation. So that yes, so as a result, you are going to understand that this life is utterly unsatisfactory, because I have born and I'm going to experience aging, and death could happen at any point of life living. So that what is this life? So you're now, when you understand that life is under suffering fundamentally, not only you develop Shraddha on the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, you are working on it. Now you have Maggang Sanjat, you have found the path for liberation. So the liberation path is begin with Shraddha. Is begin with when we say it, we have Sammaditthi there, otherwise you are not analyzing it well. So so many things to discover in between links, but I'm going to say we should stop this Sutta study class, because I am going to have another program for 2 hours in 1 hour, 1.5 hour time. So if you have any questions, they are welcome in the next Sutta study class, because each week we take a new discourse, but the Dhamma is same as previous discourse. So you can keep them in mind and ask these questions with the relatedness of the next discourse on the right time. So thank you very much for your contribution. Your questions made us to explore more, and those who did not ask questions is fine, because I know that you absorb the Dhamma, so that you get something. And if you do not understand the content of the discourse, please read it, and I once again ask you to read the booklet written by Bhikkhu Bodhi. It's available online. So that makes sense a lot. And each factor of transcendental order, starting from Saddha, is explained enough there for us to understand what it is. Basically, we should stick into Paticcasamuppada. Nothing is happening without Paticcasamuppada, whether it is unwholesomeness or wholesomeness. Everything happens with reasons. So that is what we need to understand. By knowing that reasons are there for everything, we take good measures to stop unwholesomeness and put our whole effort into wholesomeness, so that we are progressive towards nirvana. So wishing you nirvana like that, I'm going to end today's Sutta study class. May you all be well, happy and peaceful. See you next week. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.